The year's busiest shopping day is rapidly approaching, but there are concerns that supply chain bottlenecks could upend holiday plans. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg spoke about this on CBS Mornings, and he talked about the urgent steps the Biden administration is taking to tackle the congestion. They're working on initiatives like reallocating money to ports, using sweeper ships to pick up empty containers, and even creating pop-up ports to help sort containers. Secretary Buttigieg also addressed the worker shortage.
If you look at workers in trucking and in warehousing over the years, compensation is down from what it used to be, and I think that has contributed to the shortage. But again, there are steps we can take immediately. My department is working with states to make it easier to issue commercial driver's licenses, for example, and one of the reasons the other bill that the president is putting forward, the Build Back Better bill, is so important is it addresses things that are keeping workers out of the workforce, like the fact that child care is either unavailable or unaffordable for far too many Americans. When we address that, we will see more people return to the labor force.
All right, to talk more about the Biden administration's economic plans, let's bring in Chief Economic Advisor to the Vice President, Mike Pyle. Mike, it's great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us. As you know, the president's infrastructure bill is set to be signed on Monday. Members of the administration have said that this bill will specifically help ease gridlock at U.S. shipping ports. Explain to our audience how.
So it's great to be with both of you. Thank you for having me. Yeah, we are very focused, the president, the vice president, the whole team here, on easing gridlock in our ports. It's a vital issue. It goes to the price pressures that a lot of American families are feeling. And the president and vice president have a plan, both short-term and long-term, to deal with that congestion. Exactly as you said, over the long term, the president's infrastructure bill, which he'll sign on Monday, represents a historic investment in our ports, $17 billion. That'll go to expanding capacity, deepening channels, increasing the connectivity of rail and other networks to our ports that really enhances that productivity over the medium to long term. Short term, there's a lot of steps, including some of the ones you heard about from Secretary Buttigieg, that are really focused on easing those bottlenecks in the weeks and months ahead. We've talked about in process of getting to 24/7 operation at the ports of LA and Long Beach, the busiest ports in the country. Earlier this week announced a significant investment in the port of Savannah, a very important East Coast port in terms of creating pop-up warehouses to ease some of the congestion there. So this is just a huge focus around the administration, both short-term and long-term.
So now we sort of find ourselves, though, in a unique situation because of this pandemic. The economy is starting to grow. Businesses are starting to open up. But now we're seeing, because of the supply chain issues and other things, the cost of goods rising. How is the White House going to balance economic growth and the risk of inflation?
Well, I would take a step back and say a couple of things. First, we are in the midst of a historic recovery, and we are encouraged by the trends we're seeing in the job market and around growth. When this president and vice president took office, the economy had been adding just about 60,000 jobs a month. Here we are, 9, 10 months later, the economy has been averaging over 10 times that amount since the president and vice president took office. Unemployment insurance claims down by 70%. Wages are up. The United States has been registering a recovery faster than any of our advanced economy peers. This is a historic recovery that's underway. And it's underway because of the efforts to vaccinate the countries, to put relief in pockets, and to get Americans back to work and back to normal. That being said, of course, we are paying very close attention to the price pressures, to the supply chain backlogs that are out there and that are clearly and frankly, having a real effect on households across the country. These are pinch points that matter at the pump, at the grocery shelves. And this is why the president and vice president, again, both short term, a set of action steps around ports, around supply chain bottlenecks more broadly, as well as long term, investing in our infrastructure, investing in the pain points that families feel around childcare, housing, healthcare costs. This is part of a really comprehensive plan to keep the growth going, but also to focus on those pain points around inflation, around price pressures that we are well aware that families across the country are feeling.
Yeah. Mike, what the president has also said is a key way to help relieve some of these increasing prices, these inflationary pressures, is to pass that $1.85 trillion collection of spending programs and tax cuts that's right now essentially languishing in the United States Senate. Now, a number of economists agree that this should bring prices down, but there are also some who say, in theory, that will work. The infrastructure plan will add jobs, will ease inflation as more goods and services are produced, but it will take some time for those prices to come down. So we may not see the effects of these policies and this bill for another couple of years. Can the American people deal with rising prices in the next year, in the next 24 months?
That's why the president and vice president have a plan that goes to both the short term and the long term. Medium to long term, like I've said, the infrastructure plan, expanding capacity at our ports and our rail systems, our roads and bridges, our broadband. This is going to make the country more productive, more capable of growing and producing over the medium to long term. And doing that, as 17 Nobel Prize winners have acknowledged, is key to price stability, easing price pressures over the medium term. Same with Build Back Better. Meeting families where they are in terms of the costs that they face around childcare, around health care, around housing. These are vital investments over the medium to long term to ease some of those costs that middle class, that working families face. But again, to your point, yeah, that's going to act out over a period of years, which is why we're also absolutely focused on a set of short-term steps that we can take to ease some of those price pressures, some of those supply chain bottlenecks, in the here and now. And again, 24/7 port operation. You heard Secretary Buttigieg talk about working with states to increase the number of commercial driver's licenses that are able to be issued, pop-up warehousing at Savannah, a lot else in the pipeline to really short-term, focus on the pressures that people are feeling and provide some relief as the economy recovers.
So, as you know, the vice president is in Paris, and she spoke earlier, and she showed support for the president's economic plans, saying that the spending bills will support the nation's workers and families. Here's a little bit of what she had to say.
It is designed to make it less expensive for working people to live. It was specifically designed to bring down the costs of childcare and increase accessibility and availability. Designed to bring down the cost of elder care and make it available to all those working families that need that support and need that help. And Build Back Better is not going to cost anything. We're paying for it.
I suppose this is a little bit of what you've been touching on in terms of sort of measures to offer some immediate relief. But can you elaborate on what the vice president said?
I think you heard a lot of the themes from the vice president that I've been working to articulate as well. I mean, one thing that I think she really emphasized at the end of her remarks was, and it goes to this point around inflation as well, Build Back Better is a plan, the infrastructure plan, are plans that are fully paid for by asking the wealthiest individuals, the wealthiest corporations to pay their share, fair share, making sure that families earning less than $400,000 don't see anything by way of a tax increase. In fact, in most cases, see their taxes cut. Making sure that these plans are fully paid for is key to ensuring that there's no inflationary pressure that results. But on top of that, of course, again, all that I've been talking about around meeting families where they are in terms of the costs they face, childcare, healthcare, housing, meeting the productive needs of the economy around building out and enhancing our infrastructure. This is why, all told, we think that this is a game plan, and 17 Nobel Prize winning economists agree that is going to really help to manage price pressures over the medium to long term and increase our growth potential and our capacity to deliver for middle class families where they are.
Mike Pyle, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.